put your tables today because we hope to have some discussion amongst the parents. We've been doing this parent coffee on adolescence since year one. And my fondest memory from the first time we did it, we were sort of talking, and when we sort of broke into groups, there was one father who was, the 8th grader was his 5th child. And most of the people there, the 8th grader was their 1st child. And he just started to give a lot more context and perspective on sort of having, by that point in time, his oldest were grown and out of college. So he was able to give us a great perspective. I think it is nice to be able to just share, whether it's frustrations or things that work or stuff like that as we deal with adolescence. A couple things, just some upcoming events. On Saturday, February 2nd, we have the Association of Independent Schools in New England has their middle school student of color conference. So we're trying to encourage you guys to sign up for that. Saturday, February 9th, I will be taking a ski trip to Mount Sunapee. It's a fun, we've done it I think 4 or 5 years in a row. It's for 7th, 8th, and 9th graders. I think we max out about 50 students on the bus. We basically leave here at 6:30 in the morning, take the bus up to Sunapee, ski for the day, and then come back and leave there around 4:30, get back there around 6:30, 7 o'clock, depending on traffic. We've gone 4 years. 2 years we've ended up with broken bones. 2 years we haven't. The New London Hospital and I are in a good relationship. We've seen some kids make really good friendships on that trip that we didn't know before, that we ski together for the day. And we ride the bus together. It's been a good one. We have a parent coffee in February. It's February 13th. That'll be a mixed 7th and 8th grade parent coffee. Confirm the topic yet, but I think it's going to be on growth mindset. The next all ages 8th grade parent coffee will be Friday, March 1st, which is when Charlie Drain, who's the academic vice principal, will come and talk about the high school academic program. And so talk about that and talk about some of the course selection things which will come up. Your 8th graders will do their course selection in early April. Try to talk a little about that, but mostly make sure you're aware of sort of what the academic program is, answer any questions you might have, and then we'll talk to the 8th graders in late March about course selection. They'll come home with a sheet. Most of it's pretty simple. The arts is the main sort of choices that they have. We'll do a webinar as well if you just have more questions at that time. And then April 26th. We have an 8th grade parent coffee at this point. Mr. Brooks, who's the vice principal for student affairs in high school, and Mr. McGonigal, who's the vice principal for nation, mission, and identity. They will come and talk about all the various extracurriculars, from athletics to clubs to retreats, service opportunities like that in high school. So, but today we're still in 8th grade. Focus on 8th grade, and talk about sort of supporting and dealing with your sons as they move into adolescence. I work with adolescents every day. That's my job. I do have quite a bit of experiential knowledge, as well as I've read quite a few books on it, and obviously discussions with people all the time. So we'll try to share some of the information we have. I do have some book recommendations. I think on the green sheet. 4 of the books really. This is the best title of any book. Get Out of My Life, but First Could You Drive Me to Charlton Mall? And the book is an easy read like that. It's good, it's fun, but it is, I think it's the greatest title, and that's why you should read it, just because of the title. But it is a good one. Again, it's a little older now, so some of these older books, the internet is not a thing, or texting and cell phones and things like that are not a thing. This one, again, written in the 80s, early 90s, Learning How to Kiss a Frog, is, I give it to the teachers we hire every year, even though, again, it doesn't deal with any of the sort of 21st century issues. It's still a very good understanding of adolescence. Again, pretty simple read. Michael Thompson's book, Raising Cain, again, a little more academic, but also very good read. And again, older as well, again, not as much of the, sort of some of the modern stuff, but again, a lot on sort of what an adolescent is, and particularly adolescent boys in this case. And then there's one book on there I haven't read. I know, Yes, Your Teen is Crazy, Loving Your Kid Without Losing Your Mind. I haven't read that one. I think Ms. Donuts really likes it, one of our guidance counselors. That's why it's on there. And then this came out, I don't know, about 5 years ago now. We sent a chapter of this out with this, Masterminds and Winning by Rosalind Walker. This is probably my favorite of the ones. It's a little more, again, it's more up to date. It has more of the stuff with cell phones and things like that the older books don't have. So, again, just some good recommendations, some good resources. But a little context this morning. In 8th grade is when we really start, and again, for some it's in 7th grade, for some it's not in 9th grade, for the most part, 8th grade is when we start to really notice the boys moving into adolescence and becoming what all the stereotypes of adolescence would resonate in our heads. But, I want to say that when dealing with adolescence, it's a lot easier in schools than it is at home. And, we tend to see the best sides of your sons. Not always, but more often than you do. It's when they're at home is when they want to reveal the worst sides of themselves. And Mark Twain has a great quote. When I was a boy of 14, my father was so ignorant, I could hardly stand to have the old man around. When I got to be 21, I was astonished by how much he'd learned in 7 years. So there's hope, right? I mean, that's where we're at that first part right now, but there's hope. And I remember one time, first year of Lupe, Mr. Devlin, the guidance counselor then, and I, we had a boy who was going through a pretty significant crisis. He had gotten so mad at his mother, he'd run away, he'd come home in 48 hours. We're in Mr. Devlin's office with him. We're trying to convince him he needs to go home. He's just so angry. And we finally get down through. He's angry because she grounded him. And it was so unfair, so unfair. We kind of finally break it down. He had been unbelievably rude to his mother, and she grounded him. Mr. Devlin and I look at each other and, really? And I said to him, hey, if you said that to one of us here, he said, oh, I would be in so much trouble. But it's totally different. Like, really, what's different? But that's some of the mentality. So again, as parents, we get the brunt of it compared to the schools. Just to talk a little bit about what 8th graders are going through, it's interesting to watch them. And you watch, if you go from the 7th grade class to 8th grade class, it is a different field. And 8th graders this time of year, they're getting more confident. I'm sure you all noticed that at times. They're getting bigger, and that changes how they interact with the world. They're starting to think more abstractly, which is really interesting. And again, some of them are right there now. Some of them are really struggling in Algebra 1 because they haven't got that ability to think abstractly yet, and it will come sometime between now and June. Earlier it's happier for them in Algebra 1, later it's not as happy, but it does start to come in. They think they know a lot. They know far more than the rest of us most of the time. But that's pretty typical for what adolescents have. And they want more independence. And they're getting more independence at school. And some of that purposeful on our part, and some of it's just kind of natural. They act more maturely. We recognize that. We give them more responsibility. We back off a little bit. They act even more maturely because they like that. They begin to think more abstractly. They can have more mature conversations. So again, we treat them a little differently, and it's somewhat natural. But also, there's some stuff going on academically. They're being asked to do more sophisticated writing assignments. There's more discussion and higher level discussion and reflection in some of the classes, and advisory. As time goes on, they're getting longer term projects, and more independent work, which again fosters that sense of independence, and it's a good way. Now, sometimes they crash and burn on this, but generally speaking, they do pretty well with it. And there'll be bumps in the roads, both individually and as the grade as a whole. I think almost every year, this guy, any one of our English teachers has been here for the entire time of the division. Almost every year, there's one point where she says to me, 8th graders have lost their magic, which just means they're all grumpy for a while. And then there's a point in May when they come back and they've got their magic again. So we just sort of see this. Some years that grumpiness is far worse than other years. Some years it's pretty easy, just a little downturn. And we try to be very aware of it, sort of how we approach it, how we deal with it as it goes on. I taught everywhere from 5th grade, which was a disaster, to 12th grade. My favorite point in time is 8th grade spring. Some people get very frustrated at 8th grade spring. I just found that was the best time to teach them. So and because they're starting to think in a way that they couldn't think before. And you can have a lot more fun with them, wrestling with ideas, throwing it out there. As long as you kind of, in the spring, keep your foot on the gas as much as possible so they don't get squirrely on you, it's a great time to teach them. And we're looking for more leadership opportunities for them. They can be graded admissions events. It's just fantastic. Welcoming students, welcoming adults, talking to them, having conversations, answering questions. We've got a couple of our organizations right now, the PLSU, and the CGSO, where kids are really taking some great leadership and ownership opportunities. We have an 8th grade leadership team, which again, that needs a little more pushing this year to figure out how they can lead. We're trying to get each of those groups to run a morning meeting in the next couple of months. And just things like that where we're trying to push it. Athletic teams for some kids, that's the opportunity for real leadership. For other kids, it's some clubs. We saw some great leaders of our robotics team in the fall. There's other club opportunities where we find kids really taking that central role and helping to organize things. We've got a couple of, got some 8th graders running the programming club. We have our 4 or 5 dungeons going in Dungeons and Dragons. You've got different dungeon masters that are very much in control of those things. You got the middle school student color conference coming up. That's an opportunity for some of our guys. So, and ironically, in some ways, they are treated as more mature when they're in 8th grade because they're the oldest. Then when they get to 9th grade, and then all of a sudden they're the youngest. And that happens everywhere. And that's just, it's one of those transitions. Other ways they're treated more maturely just because they're in high school next year. So it's not really one way or the other. So we get lots of positives working with your sons. But I think the real trick at adolescence is at home. And, Rosalind Wiseman has a great quote, which I'll read here. Parenting boys isn't fair. When your son is upset or angry, you can feel like you're giving one chance with very limited information to say the right thing. If you don't get it right, his expression says, "This is why I never tell you anything. Well, now I will never tell you anything again." And I think that's pretty accurate for a lot of boys. Not every boy's the same. I think it is pretty accurate. So, in a lot of the books you read on adolescence, they talk about 2 conflicting issues with boys at this age. One is their, sort of, as some books call it, their allergy to parents. Whereas they, I think in one of the books they talk about boys disappear. They go into their bedroom at about age 14, shut the door and come out at age 18. And they don't talk to you in between. They want privacy. They don't want you to know what's happening in their lives. But underneath it all, they still need you and they still want you, but they're mad that they want you and need you. So so as much as often they're pushing you away at this age. At the same time, they don't have the frontal cortex fully developed. And they need you to be their frontal cortex. They need you to be the one who's going to think things through for them because they're not doing it. This is the time that they will become involved in more risky behaviors. And, that can be, smoking, vaping, drugs, shoplifting, cheating in school, physically risky things, jumping off bridges, doing crazy things with vehicles, whether it's a bicycle now or a car a few years from now. And now to what, age 25 is when the frontal cortex voice is fully developed, so I'm going to say 50 or something like that. A lot of heads nodding there. But, and the whole risk of behavior happens pretty suddenly. Your son could tell you today, vaping is the worst thing, I can never vape, and he could be completely honest, and a week later he's vaping. So, because again, there's some switching. For some it's a little more slow, but there's a lot of them that switch comes. And they just start taking risks. Again, we got a lot of rule followers here, their risks are going to be pretty small. For other guys, the risks are going to be bigger. And just being able to keep those lines of communication open so that you can be sort of helping him think through the things that he's not thinking about. Because when they do, the first thing we always ask them when they do something really stupid is, what were you thinking? And they weren't at all. They weren't thinking anything. And that's, and it's hard to remember that, even those of us who work with them every day, forget that all the time. Why are you even asking that? They weren't thinking at all. They just did something stupid. So at a time when they don't want to talk to you, you need to find a way to be that rational thinking. You have to keep those lines of communication open. But again, Rosalind has a great quote again about the more you push, the less communication you get. This is from one of the boys she interviews in the book. He says, the first thing my mother says to me every day after school is, tell me 5 things that happened at school today. 5. She exhausts me. And I've read that, and I've read the quote, and I've read it out loud for 5 or 6 years now, and I don't say 5, but I still say, did you do at school day? And she says that's the dumbest question to ask. I think it's good to sort of think through where she lists, Rosalind Wiseman would list, the reasons he doesn't talk. Because it's good to understand it, because sometimes we take that the wrong way, but, for him, because it won't make a difference, it's going to make it worse. That's their big fear. If the parent knows about it, it's just going to make it worse. Does not want you to get angry with him. Does not want you angry with the other person. Does not want you to think he has bad judgment. Does not want to hear the reasons you think he has bad judgment. He doesn't want to get into trouble. He doesn't want you to worry. He doesn't want you to become involved in causing public humiliation. He doesn't want you to react by taking over and therefore taking away his ability to solve the problem. He doesn't want you taking away his technology. And, third point, don't you avoid conflict when possible. So again, there's lots of reasons he doesn't want to talk to us. And then she has the most common and few parent questions. How was your day? What did you learn? Anything new? And I ask that all the time. How was practice? Was it hard? Did you try your best? After a party, this would be in middle school, what did you do? Did you have fun? After a party in high school, who was there? Your parents home? Did you talk to them? Did you not do anything dumb, did you? And when he comes in for the night, where did you go? What did you do? Was it fun? Again, we all ask these things, and according to her, they're absolutely futile.
So does she have a list of things you could ask?
Yes. What do you do? Things that work. One is, and I'm going to throw out a couple things and ask you to sort of share things that you have that work as well. But spend time with them, even if they're not fun to spend time with. That's the key thing is just being there. And again, some of you probably have some great suggestions of what kind of things work for spending time, things you found that work. Being there to listen when they do say something, but recognizing that silence is okay. Not trying to jump in and solve their problem, just sort of listening. And setting up situations in which there might be a little more comfortable talking. Long car rides are often some of the best things. They don't have to look at you. They don't have to look at you because you're driving and facing this way. They're facing that way, or facing out the window. They don't have to make eye contact. And, it's kind of boring. Now, that just, presupposes they're not, you know, their headphones on, listening to what they want to, or watching a movie on their iPhone, or something like that, actually having the ability to have a long car ride that can be bored. I worked with a woman at my previous school, and whenever one of her advisees had an issue, she never sat down with them, and she always went for a walk. They would just walk down the hall, and again, I try to remember that when a boy comes to my office, is upset or something like that, usually they go to the guidance counselor, sometimes they come to me, or if I'm working with one of my advisees, and I know there's something going on, is not to sit down and say, hey, what's going on, but just to kind of go for a walk. If a boy is in tears, I always just take him for a walk. Well, let's go. And you know, the nice thing about the school is long hallways, very big. You can walk down, you can walk all around, you can do walk laps on the indoor track in the big gym. But just that, again, they don't have to look you in the eye. If you go into the guidance counselor's offices, they have lots of little toys and things, puzzles, hand puzzles. They can sort of have something else taking up their sort of visual focus as they try to process these things. And again, just giving them time to talk. Both Ms. Donuts and Mrs. Hornby are two guidance counselors, fantastic at being available, setting up a wonderful environment that the boys will come in, and oftentimes you'll see, I'll see a boy sort of walk back and forth in front of their office in the hallway, just kind of walk back and forth a few times. They're not quite ready to go in yet, they're not knocking on the door, and then I'll sometimes see Tracy or Jen come out and say, hey, you want to come in? And they always have like Twizzlers or something like that. Would you like a Twizzler? And then the guy will come in, and Twizzlers are kind of hard to open because they're individually wrapped. So it takes him a little while to get the wrapping off, and eats it. And by the time that goes in, then maybe he picks up a puzzle, sits down, and eventually starts to talk. But they're great at that. And as parents, that's one of those things, just kind of knows what are the signs that he wants to talk. And oftentimes I think he hangs around where you are but doesn't say anything. He says he doesn't feel well, wants to stay home, but nothing seems wrong physically. You're about to drive somewhere and he volunteers to go. He asks to watch a show with you. He slips a very casual reference to his problem into the conversation. He begins to revert back to younger behavior, where he tries to get other people out of the house except him. So these are signs to look out for. And sometimes they're not done in sort of fun ways. Sometimes it's very annoying the way they do these things. So it's easy to just sort of get frustrated and not recognize, wait a minute, what's he really trying to say to me? So Morgan Suter is our
instructional technologist, let's say. Sorry about that second word, but there it is.
About technology.
So, instructional technologist, which means I just want to make sure that the iPad and laptops and everything else are seamless, that they work. With respect to your boys, it turns out that these things work great. They almost never crash. They work amazingly well, right? Compared to all other things, right? These things just work all the time. But there's some difficulties, which is that they can just put whatever they want on it, and we say many times at the beginning of every single year, right? These are educational devices. You guys have heard the spiel, you've seen the stuff in the handbook and everything.
Why are you letting them put video games on?
Hold on, here we go. Hold on. So the goal, right, what we hope for is that they are in fact just educational devices. I'm going to very, very quickly show you a way that you can make it exclusively an educational device, and I want to hold out for you the completely offered service of, wait, no, I'm not even comfortable doing that, I just want you to take care of it, I will. Here we go. So I'm going to give you just a very, very quick overview. This is what you can do. So if you want to do this yourself, piece of cake. If you say to me, that's not a piece of cake, great, I'm going to tell you how you can get me to do it. In settings, if you go down to screen time, there's these things you can set up in screen time. I've already set screen time up, so it'll look a tiny bit different if you do it. When you first click on screen time, it'll say, you want to turn on screen time? You'll say, yup. It'll then lead you by the nose. If you do the things wrong, or do them in a way that you want to change them, eventually your screen will look like this, and you can modify each of these 4 settings. Downtime, when the thing basically stops working. App limits, specific apps that you only want your boy to be able to use for a little while each day, 15 minutes of this game, whatever it is. Always allow things that are just, yes, all day long. Kindle, the textbook app. And specific things that you want to say, listen, they shouldn't be allowed to download apps at all, or whatever else. Very briefly, downtime. You click on that, oh by the way, it'll have you set up a password that's your own password that has nothing to do with his device password. Never tell him that. Seriously, never.
Don't forget that password.
Yeah, don't forget that password. Make it something simple, but don't tell him, don't forget it. So you can, so by the way, full disclosure, I'm going to show you exactly what I have set up for my son, who is in 7th grade here. So lest you think I'm coming down hard on your boys, this is what I got going on with my boy. Start time for downtime, right? 7 p.m. End time, 7 a.m. So, and then block it downtime. This, for my money, is the most important feature of this entire thing. This makes it so basically the whole iPad wants to stop functioning from 7 p.m. in the evening until 7 a.m. in the morning. Hold on a second, he's got to do work. He's got homework. Sometimes it goes later than 7 p.m. I'm with you. Always allowed. The third one down there. You come to this screen, it shows you every single app that's on the device. You go down the list, and you say, yes, the old Google Docs. You press the green thing, and I don't know, they have to use Kindle, so you press the green thing. And they have to use Notability. So for every single app that you identify that seems to be educational, press on that green plus, and then when you're done, you scroll up and you see, okay, these are all the things that he can use until 2 a.m. if he wants. He won't want to. I'm going to go through the other ones even faster, because I know you can call me up, you can email me, you can have me do it. The basic effect of this, I'm telling you, it's fairly magical, is that the thing ceases to be nearly as attractive. They use it, and they just want to be done with it, because all it's got on it for them is the books and the things that you've said that they were supposed to be using. And if you want, right, you can throw in under app limits, you can say, sure, I'm not a complete monster. I'm going to say set a limit for games and do whatever it is, 20 minutes, and then, great, 20 minutes. And you don't have to have the conversation with them again and again. It'll just stop working.
Is that 20 minutes during the downtime?
Good, thank you very much for asking. The downtime cuts off anything that hasn't been added to the always allowed list.
So no gaming after 7 o'clock?
Done. Exactly right. By the way, last thing. I want to ever so quickly look at this last thing. Because when you take his iPad, or when I take his iPad, and turn this on, and remove all the apps that you're just sick of. No more Fortnite, no more whatever, this and that. The first thing any self-respecting boy is going to do is say thank you, and go off and download that thing. So you come into here, the fourth one, under content restrictions, and you click on this top one, iTunes and App Store purchases. And you then say installing apps, don't allow. And with that one change, there is no App Store. There's no workaround. The App Store is gone. You can put the App Store back on by going to that setting, and making it allowable. Totally fine. All these things can be changed back. They're just settings. In here, there's so much stuff in the content and privacy restrictions, there's no way I'm going through it all. Knock yourself out. Or again, kick it down the road to me, that's fine. I've done this dozens of times now with different students in Route A and in the high school. Happy to do it for your son.
Yeah.
Surely we have to make our own choices and stuff. I think part of that making your own choices can come into play with a lengthening of the allowable time, right? Forcing them to decide how to partition that allowable time. So sometimes, right, on the weekend, I'll up my son's sort of game allowance to a shocking 35 minutes, right? And then you can see him, he sort of approaches the device and he's like, no, it'd be better, during dessert or something, you know what I mean, right? He knows he only has this allotted time that he can do, and so then he starts to make that choice. When will I really enjoy playing this awful game? Yeah, to me, it's a more and more and more as they get older, so they then make that choice. I can honestly say I know when the right time is to say, here's this incredibly potent drug, take of it as much as you decide is the right amount. Because I don't know. I wish I had a better answer. What else?
We comment that.
Oh, sorry.
For example, my son, like I disable when he starts in 7th grade, the app store on his phone. And they say, well, when I see your first quarter grades, I will choose, then you can have it, I can put it on. And depends if I say change, it will go away again. So he stays there and he says, well, if I see that you continue to do the right choices and your results are okay, then that means that you are managing. If I see that it doesn't, it goes away.
I love it.
As well as the phone.
I love it.
So,
Yeah.
that's how
And similarly, I started by putting none of these restrictions on my son. I think within 2 weeks he got jugged for gaming. The hammer came down, yes. There wasn't a lot of commentary about it. I just took it from him. I said, here you go, here's this back. It didn't work quite as well. Please.
I think we've all had a similar experience, so why not lock it down in 7th grade when they get them?
Very good question.
As an organization.
Yes, I love it. That is what I am going to do this coming fall. This feature did not yet exist
That's right.
this past fall. And I knew it was coming because I had been messing with it in the summer, but it hadn't actually, iOS 12 hadn't been released yet. My sadness was significant. Yeah, I plan to implement, more or less without permission, a very low level of this to all incoming 7th graders. And it'll be like the thing's already going to be checked. Feel free to let me know you want it unchecked. The number of emails I've received of parents telling me that their son was the only one who couldn't download this, and boy, that number's rising. It was already significant, right? It was already not quite right, and now it's really not right. So don't worry. There's these lockdowns are becoming ubiquitous. Sorry, if you want me to just do this, email your son's guidance counselor. I'll take care of it. Morning, when I take care of it, I take care of it. Feel free to blame me, that evil Mr. Suter. That's fine, no problem. But that's, my standard is fairly tight.
I don't own the iPads. I can't control what you put on them, what not. We're going to say they're not allowed to have anything other than anything other than the academic apps on the iPad during the school day. I thought that would give parents to sort of say, hey, great, no one's going to have it. 95% of the kids have whatever, and before school, they were, what we were doing was encouraging kids to be sneaky, to play the odds. Like, so one kid would get jugged because someone happened to catch him, other kids wouldn't, and it seemed to be setting up we couldn't police it during the morning, because some kids were out at 7 in the morning and have no homework to do, don't need to see a teacher, but that's when they got to school. So we went to, hey look, from 8:20 to 3:45, that's what we're calling the academic day. You can't be doing anything other than academic stuff on your iPad. So that takes us through 3:45 is the end of silent study hall in the afternoon. It's an hour after school ends. Most kids, a lot of kids might have their homework done by then, and we weren't going to flip. I would love to just sort of blanket all of it, but I don't, we didn't have the ability, and parents weren't doing it. So that's why, so that's why I tried this year. We've actually seemed to have less issues during the school day than we did prior. Last year, Fortnite killed us last year. But, so we were trying to figure out, like, what can we actually do? Can we better police during the school day? Yes. Do we set up an odd way where we say it's the entire time they're on campus and they actually don't do anything that much about it when they're at 7th grade, where they're hiding back here in the atrium, in the caf, or they're in the hallway? So that's what we decided. We know we can pretty effectively control this time period. So two benefits. I think they do socialize well, and there's some good socializing, and I see that, and a lot of good interaction. And the other thing I would say is, I shouldn't even say this, I should knock on wood 5 times, but they seem to be, when they're gaming, they're not doing stupid stuff on social media. And for me, that's a pretty positive trade-off. So, I don't know, I don't love it, I don't love but on the other hand, I'm getting more comfortable with the guys. If I watch the guys, and they do interact, they do seem to have good stuff going on with each other, so. It's, what was it, Marx called religion the opium of the masses? He hadn't seen the iPad yet. Docility and behavior at 7:30 in the morning. I got that going for me, so. All right, we really should, I'll be out in the atrium, so if anyone has another question, feel free. Thank you all for coming in.